On May 12, 1932, the body of 1-year-old Charles Augustus Lindbergh Jr. was discovered in the woods outside Trenton, New Jersey. The coroner's report stated that the child had died more than 2 months earlier. There was a hole in the child's skull and several other fractures, and the coroner ruled the cause of death to be a blow to the head. Parts of the child's body were also missing. The Lindberghs, the son of aviator Charles Lindbergh Sr., had been abducted from his crib at his family's home and had been missing for nearly 3 months. The child was put to bed by his nanny at 7:30 p.m. 2 hours later, Lindbergh Sr. heard what he believed to be a wooden box breaking in the kitchen. At 10 p.m., the nanny discovered the child's crib empty. After discovering that the child was not with the nanny or his mother, Lindbergh Sr. found a ransom note on a windowsill and a broken ladder outside the window. After reading the note, Lindbergh Sr. searched the house and yard in vain before calling the police. Over the course of 3 months, the Lindbergh family, along with the FBI, searched for the child, even responding to huge ransom demands and interviewing countless suspects and witnesses. Eventually, the official culprit was identified as Richard Hauptmann, an immigrant from Germany who had a criminal record in his native country. Police discovered that Hauptmann had $14,000 of the $50,000 used to pay the ransom, after tracking him down through a $10 bill he had spent at a local gas station. Hauptmann was arrested and charged with the premeditated murder of the Lindbergh child, a charge that allows for the death penalty as a possible option. The trial was dubbed the trial of the century, with one journalist calling it the biggest story since the turn of the century. Despite the significance of the trial, the jury was surprisingly quick to return a guilty verdict. He was immediately sentenced to death, and his appeals were denied. On April 3, 1936, 4 years after the kidnapping, Richard Hauptmann was executed in the electric chair. Charles Lindbergh's fame as a pilot added to the media coverage, but it made it difficult to determine which information was true and which was a publicity stunt. Although the case seemed straightforward on paper, the investigation was far from it. Between the media frenzy, the mysterious ransom letters, and the many side investigations that were taking place, it was a miracle that anyone was convicted. When the Lindbergh child's abduction was first reported, hundreds of loyal Lindbergh fans and concerned citizens descended on the Lindbergh estate. While the media coverage helped to build the case and publicize the missing child, the increased traffic to the estate destroyed any evidence that might have been found outside the home. This chaos also encouraged hundreds of false reports of sightings and information. Military officials and investigators all offered their services, claiming to have experience with kidnappings and law enforcement. However, only one of them had any real experience. New Jersey State Police Superintendent Herbert Norman Schwarzkopf cooperated with Lindbergh, and they believed that Lindbergh's kidnapping was part of an organized crime network rather than a single actor seeking ransom. Based on this assumption, they approached gangsters, both inside and outside prison, in the hope that one of them might have information about the Lindbergh child. Even Al Capone contacted Lindbergh, offering his services in exchange for early release from prison, but was quickly turned down. Likewise, it was decided that gangsters would likely be less helpful in providing information for free. Given the media commotion and Lindbergh's high profile, President Herbert Hoover was informed of the child's kidnapping the morning after it occurred. Although kidnappings were usually handled by local authorities, Hoover assigned the entire Bureau of Investigation, which was not yet federal, to the case and authorized them to work with the New Jersey police. As a reward for information on the Charles Lindbergh Jr. case, the police department offered $25,000. In addition, the Lindbergh family offered another $50,000 of their own money. While the New Jersey police were investigating the Lindbergh family, a retired New York schoolteacher also took an interest in the Lindbergh child case. John F. Kondo, then a well-known figure in the Bronx, wrote a letter to a local newspaper offering a $1,000 reward if the kidnapper would return little Lindy to a Catholic priest. Surprisingly, Kondo received a letter in response from people claiming to be the kidnappers, asking him to act as an intermediary between them and Lindbergh. Desperate to find his son, Lindbergh agreed, allowing Kondo to carry out the letter's request. Kondo placed a classified ad in another newspaper and arranged a meeting with one of the kidnappers to take place at Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx. The meeting did take place, though it was held under the cover of darkness, so the perpetrator's face was not clearly visible. However, The man gave his name as John and claimed to be part of a fugitive Scandinavian gang. He claimed to be keeping the child in a boat off the coast and would return him for ransom. When Kondo became suspicious of the man's story, the man promised to return the child's pajamas. And indeed, several weeks later, Kondo received a child's pajama in the mail. Lindbergh confirmed that the pajamas were for his son and asked Kondo to continue communicating with the kidnappers and fulfill their requests. During the Lindbergh kidnapping investigation, the Lindberghs and Kondo received a total of 7 ransom letters. The first was found by Charles in his son's room immediately after he discovered the child missing. The letter detailed the Lindbergh kidnapping and demanded $50,000 to be delivered to an unspecified location. The first letter was signed with a hand-drawn symbol consisting of 3 circles and 3 holes. The second and third letters, delivered to the Lindberghs' home and to local investigators, bore the same symbols. The remaining letters were delivered to Kondo and did not bear the same symbols, although they were confirmed to be authentic. After the 7th letter was delivered, the Lindberghs and police allowed Kondo to arrange for the delivery of the money. It was placed inside a handmade box, specially designed to be easily identifiable in the future. The bills were not marked, but each bill's serial number was recorded so that it could be traced later. Kondo met with John on April 2, 1932, to deliver the money. During the meeting he was told that Charles Lindbergh Jr. was in possession of 2 innocent women, but no further information was provided. Since there was no other evidence, the police began tracing the serial numbers of the banknotes. A flyer was distributed to businesses in New York City with the serial numbers and information on what to do if they were found. Some of the notes turned up, though most were never seen. Most of the notes that had been used turned up randomly in locations such as Chicago and Minneapolis, but the people who used them were never located. Over the course of 30 months, police noticed that more and more notes began to appear, especially on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. More specifically, they were being used along the Lexington Avenue subway line. After a local gas station called and reported that they had one of the ransom notes, police were directed to Richard Hauptmann. Although Hauptmann is considered the official kidnapper of Charles Lindbergh Jr., that hasn't stopped conspiracy theories from emerging about what happened in Lindbergh's kidnapping. Hauptmann's defenders are quick to point out that his fingerprints were not found on the latter or any of the ransom notes. They also emphasize the fact that the crime scene was chaotic from the start and that any available evidence was quickly manipulated by the media chaos that ensued. There are some experts, both self-proclaimed and legitimate, who have theorized that Hauptmann was a scapegoat and that Lindbergh knew who the real hijacker was but was either complicit or too afraid to say anything. In fact, one of the most popular, and some would say supported by evidence, claims is that the kidnapping was carried out by Charles Lindbergh himself. Some say that he accidentally killed his son and orchestrated the kidnapping to cover up his crimes, pointing the finger at Hauptmann to cover up his actions. Some believe that Lindbergh staged the kidnapping as a publicity stunt, and that when the hired hijackers did not get what Lindbergh promised them, the plan went wrong. Lindbergh and his family have rejected theories that he was responsible for the kidnapping, insisting that everything they know about the case suggests it was real and that the child's death was simply the result of the kidnapper collapsing under stress. Whatever the truth, despite the case being closed, the Lindbergh child kidnapping has become one of the most controversial and widely discussed cases by the American public. Beyond popular culture and the media, the case made a major impact and it prompted Congress to enact the Federal Kidnapping Act, which made kidnapping a federal crime and required federal police to pursue the case across states. This law is commonly referred to as the Lindbergh Law. And here we come to the end of the story. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to like and subscribe.